But it's time. Hi everybody. I just introduced myself. I'm Kyle. I've been in China for 13 years and been married for 3.5 years, and I have a lovely 3-year-old daughter. And actually I just got in today from Shanghai, where I was doing my passport and my visa and dealing with all of that kind of stuff. So I did not have time to prepare a lovely PowerPoint presentation, which I would have liked to do actually, maybe next time. And today I want to talk about the spousal visa, and I want to talk about my life under the spousal visa, which has not really been that easy. Right now I'm on a Q2 family visa, which gives me 90 days in China. So every 90 days I need to leave the country. I need to go outside of China and then come back to Hangzhou. And maybe some foreigners here kind of know what that's like. But when you live in northern China, like when you live in Hangzhou or Shanghai, and you need to leave the country, what people do is they go down to Xiamen. And that's what I did last time, like a month ago. So every 90 days I go and I get a high-speed train, or I get on the airplane, and I fly down to Xiamen. And then in Xiamen, the reason you can leave the country there is there's like a little island outside of Xiamen called Jinmen Dao, Kinmen Island, which is a part of Taiwan, and it's like a 30-minute boat ride. It's pretty easy, but it still counts as leaving the country. But that doesn't make it easy, because going down to Xiamen is like, if I take the train, it's like a 7-hour train ride and 300 RMB, then 7 hours back and 300 RMB. Or I can fly there, which is what I did last time. That's like the cheapest is like 500. Because you're taking a boat to Jinmen Island, you kind of have to like be there early in the day. There's no like night service, so you can't really like go down in the morning. Like maybe you can fly down in the morning, but usually I'll spend the night in Xiamen, which is what I did last time. So it gets pretty expensive, and it's quite irritating. Yeah, okay. And the reason I'm on a Q2 family visa is because of my lovely wife, Mizai from Hunan province, and our daughter, Eleanor, who's studying at the Hangzhou International School right now, and she just started. Okay, yeah. And kind of before we begin today, like before I say too much, when I was advertising this event on WeChat, when I was like trying to find people to come here, maybe you saw like some of my spamming. I got a private message from a foreign guy, and he was quite concerned that I would be talking about this topic. We all live in China, and you don't want to talk about too many things. You got to be careful when you're talking. And so I'm definitely being careful today, and I want to stay 100% positive. Yeah. I know that China, I think a lot of the difficulty is that China has historically not been an immigrant country. China has not been a nation where people come and move here and make their home here. China has been a country of immigrants. Like my home country, Canada, we have a lot of Chinese people living there. But things are changing here in China. There's more and more foreigners are coming here and living and working and getting married and making China their home. Okay, yeah. Like sometimes when I talk about, if I ever say anything kind of that I'm like a little bit dissatisfied about with my experience in China, people will tell me like, go home, go back to your home country, go back to Canada, leave China, right? Like even if I say like, just something very simple like anything, it's immediately like go home. And I think this concept of home is like very different for Chinese people than it is for foreign people. Because even for Chinese people who are here, like I know you guys are all from Nanjing, so you would maybe still say your home is Nanjing, even if you've been in Hangzhou for 10 years. But when someone moves to Canada, you know, after a year or after they get permanent residency or after they get citizenship, or, you know, even if they're studying there, you know, Canada is their home. It's not like a Laojia is always your home, or I'm sorry, your hometown is always your home. If you like, check the United Nations definition of an immigrant. They define an immigrant as someone who's been in a new country for just 1 year. So if you've moved to a new country for 1 year, according to the United Nations, I think this is a little bit ridiculous because like 1 year, but you know, you're an immigrant, technically according to the United Nations. And like, for me, I've been here for 13 years. When I was younger, I grew up in Canada and I grew up, do we have any water? Can I have some water?
This one.
Yeah.
I haven't touched this one, but it's quite hot. So
Yeah,
be careful, you have to drink slowly.
Maybe I'll let it rest here.
The wine is on the way.
It's gonna be too late when the wine gets here. Okay. Yeah, I grew up, when I was a kid, I grew up in America and I grew up in Canada. And then I came to China right after I finished university. And now I'm 35 years old, like I am old. Like, it's been a long time, I don't even remember university.
Still young, please. I'm even older. So
Yeah, I might be younger
I
than
want to feel I'm still young.
Well, we're still very handsome, and that's what matters. But like, you know, I'm 35, okay, and I've been in China for 13 years. I lived in Canada for maybe 13 years, in America for maybe 13 years, and now I've been in China for 13 years. So like, when people tell me to go back home, or like even just, I know the concept is like you're old, your hometown, but China is my home. Like, this is my home. It's very painful and like irritating when people like just go home. I'm like, when I go back to Canada, it is so weird. Like, I'm just not used to being in Canada at all. When I was in China for like 7 years, and I went back to, it was like 7 years before I went back to Canada for my first time. You know, sometimes I went back to America, but I'd never been back to Canada. and even now when I go back, it's like 2 weeks or like 2 months, and it's so weird. Like, I always feel like I'm a Chinese, or I'm, you know, I know I'm not Chinese, but like, there's so many Canadian Chinese, and they're like walking around and they're normal and they understand everything. They're not getting lost everywhere and like being rude, and you know, and there's me like smoking and being terrible and just totally out of place. Yeah, okay, I thought maybe I could ask like a couple questions. So has anyone here studied overseas before? Yeah, I know you guys all studied overseas. Yeah, and what did you think about the visa process, or you know, how was your visa process for?
I only studied there for 1 year, so.
Uh-huh.
Not sure.
Where were you at?
The U.S.
Oh, in the U.S.
as an exchange student.
Oh, okay. And
It's a little complicated.
Judy,
Yeah, I think at first I got the visa maybe for 2 months, and then I need to change to one visa for 1 year. It's not so easy, I think, but it's fine.
So I went to UK, and then I think I had a similar experience with her. So I got a first 2 months visa, and then I had to renew it to a 1 year one. So I think when I applied for the UK visa, it's relatively quite easy. But when I applied for my visa to study in Mexico, it was really complicated. I submitted the materials, I submitted the documents, I think twice or 3 times. And then it took me like total 2 months to get the visa. Yeah.
why is that, or?
I don't know, probably it's not a very common choice for Chinese to study there. And then the embassy in Shanghai, they barely processed the cases like this before. Yeah, so.
Yeah, and I had one like follow-up question. Did you guys think about staying there after your studying? Maybe not as an exchange student, but Judy?
No.
Okay. And
No, I don't think it's really easy for Chinese to apply a job within EU, because the system in EU is quite different. Because if you are a member of the EU, you can just like apply for a job in any of the countries, right, without any working visa. So, so I think it will be more difficult for Chinese to find a job there and then stay there.
yeah, I think that's usually where Chinese kind of run into their problems. Is yeah. I know one of my good friends was in Australia studying, and then his visa and then his work visa ran out, and he didn't have a choice. So you guys didn't think of getting married to any locals, huh? Yeah, and okay, I also want to ask, does anyone what are your thoughts on how China's spousal visa, or on how China's family visa or husband visa, what are your preconceptions? I think she actually understands it pretty well, but maybe I forget your name, sorry.
Vicky.
Vicky, right? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you.
Previously, I think China is very friendly to foreigners, so I never thought about this kind of problems.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the general conception. China's very friendly and welcoming, and that's actually true. Is compared to Canada, China is a lot easier to get a generic visa.
I can tell an experience of my friend who is a Chinese married to a Lithuanian.
Okay.
So just to say, Lithuanian language, if you want to study it as a second language, is almost as much a pain to learn as Chinese. Seriously.
Okay.
Grammar is pretty crazy, makes no sense. Anyways,
Okay.
so that Chinese lady learned Lithuanian, memorized the entire Lithuanian constitution, took language exam for European C1. That's with, I think it's C1 or A1. I forgot. It's my for fluency exam. Took constitution exam in Lithuanian, so she could get a 3 years visa instead of 1 year visa.
Wow.
And she's married with 2 kids. Both are Lithuanian.
Wow.
So that's some really tough road.
Yeah, and I think, especially an easy way to kind of criticize what I'm saying today, or is just to compare any Western nation, is how hard it is to, even if you're married to a citizen there. Wow,
It's just a visa, not a citizenship, just a visa. Although on paper, EU should give you some sort of green card that would make your spouse equal to you. It would turn your spouse equal to any European citizen. That's what they say on the paper. But
did she actually have the green card? And
no, she only visa. She didn't go for. I didn't ask why she didn't go for green card, but.
Yeah, I'll talk about some of that a little bit, how Canada works a little bit later, and try to compare it to China. But I know for myself, my wife, she was trying to apply for an American visa, just to transit through, or just to use it as a travel visa. And her and my daughter, and she took my daughter to the American embassy, and they were just so rude, and did not. This is after Trump, but they were so rude, and they accused. My daughter, when she was born, she had black hair, and so her birth certificate, she's got pure black hair in the photo, and then later her hair became very blonde, maybe his color, and when she was in the American embassy, they basically accused her of I don't know, is that your kid? The hair's not the same. They just refused to believe, or they just don't care, right? And just rejected the travel visa. Right away, even though, Yeah, your hair color can change because my daughter's hair color changed. So I definitely sympathize with Chinese people applying to to anywhere overseas, and I'll talk a little bit about Canada later. So I'll talk a little bit now about how I got my Q2 visa, which is a Q2 visa is for foreign spouses and some relatives visiting family in China for an extended time. And yeah, I was in China on another visa, and I wanted to apply for the spousal visa because I needed a new one, and I'm married and so on. And because my wife resides in Hunan province, and I resided in Hunan province at the time, so we did our application in Hunan. And my wife's hometown is a very, very, very small town. There's no entry and exit bureau. There's like, I'm the only foreigner who's ever goes there. So we had to apply in Hangzhou, which is, I don't know how to say that in English. Hangzhou. Okay, that's English.
Yes.
But it's like the nearest kind of big city. But like even before we went for the application, like we knew there was going to be problems because my wife spoke to the man on the phone, and like even on the phone, she spoke to, okay, there's like one man. I don't know if there's more than one. Like it seems like there's one man in charge of the entire, foreign entry and exit situation in Hangzhou, and I'm pretty sure that he does not like foreign people, and his attitude like came through very clear when we called him on the phone. So we were already kind of worried. I did end up getting my visa. But we traveled to Hangzhou, my wife and I, and we brought our marriage certificate, and we brought our Hunan residence permit, and we brought all our documentation. And like we go to the counter, and the guy is just like so unfriendly. Like I don't know how your job is. He clearly does not like foreign people. Like I don't know. If he's watching this, thank you for granting me the visa. But I wish someone else was working there. And like he was just rude to us at the counter right away. I feel like they should be celebrating, a new husband in the Chinese family. But I got none of that impression. Sometimes I think too much, or I think people are like making fun of me when they're not, or I'm kind of paranoid. But like my wife said the same thing. She's like, this guy. My wife said the exact same thing as me. Is this guy is not being very friendly, and basically, understandably so. He asked like a lot of questions, about how we're gonna pay for our life in China. And I haven't gotten to this part yet, but on a spousal visa, you're not allowed to work. You can't work. So if you're applying for a spousal visa, your wife should be working, or
you should have the money.
Or yeah, you should be super rich by yourself and never need to work. That was a big part of the questions the Hunan immigration officer the Hangzhou was asking. He's like, so how are you going to support yourself? Where is your money coming from? And my wife, she didn't have a job or anything too, so it's kind of understandable, but I think my wife's opinion, not my opinion, she's like, he doesn't like foreign people coming here and living off Chinese women. I haven't managed to do that at all, so his concern is a little out of place. Yeah.
If I may say something.
Please do.
I don't think those questions, I don't want to comment on the attitude, but the questions themselves, they seem legit.
Well, Canada will ask kind of the same questions.
Exactly, because there's this foreigner who comes to this place. You want to make a family here. How are you gonna live? I mean, you want a visa. Based on that, you have to show in some way that you have the means to survive. You're not gonna be. You're not gonna end up, I don't know, in some bad situation. That's the thing. So the questions themselves, I don't think they are too You know, they're quite legit if you ask me. You know, giving aside the attitude.
Yeah, well, just like kind of on that note, basically, I think if you want to summarize my speech today, it's the spousal visa needs some kind of way for people to be able to work and like some kind of pathway to working. And I think that.
But you have the work visa for that, which is very easy to get.
Well, I'll talk about that when I get to the right page.
If you are, you know.
And that's actually what she was saying as well, is that the typical path is to be on a spouse visa and then apply for a working visa, and maybe you're doing that as well. But, you know, I also heard of like my wife has some other friends who are married to Hunan people, and they were even worried about being denied the spousal visa. You know, I didn't get the full story, but being denied a spousal visa despite being married to a Hunan person and being a legitimate resident. And I know their family was thinking of applying at a Chinese school to get a visa, even though he's married to a Chinese citizen, which, you know, I wish I had the entire story because maybe I'm missing something.
Again, it seems legit. I mean, there are cases in other countries when people just marry, they don't even know each other, they only marry
yes,
for
please.
the purpose of getting a visa.
Yeah. Yeah, and
so it's from that point of view, I don't think if you're married, you automatically are entitled to a spousal visa.
yeah, I kind of brought that up at the start. Is, you know, it's not really fair to compare China and like Western nations, because I made some notes on Canada later, but it's for Canada. Wait, maybe I can go to that.
I kind of want to have like another concern is what if you're working remotely, since for many jobs that is now a possibility, like you just work from your computer, and it means that your income can come from anywhere in the world. So in that case you would get a spousal visa, but then the 90-day limit would actually be a liability, because you do have your income, though not in China, but you still have to take that 90-day trip.
Well, and I do some work remotely, although I don't know if we're actually even allowed to work remotely. I guess we are.
No, you are.
No, you are. It's just that
Yeah.
you have to have the proper paperwork for that. That's
Yeah.
You're allowed to do some work, but you have to bring the evidence, for example, that you pay taxes and everything. Nobody forbids you to work.
Yeah, and like today I definitely didn't come here as an authority, and like I was still learning stuff as I was like writing my speech. So, you know, if you guys have anything to add, or please question me, give more information and everything.
Yeah, I'm just curious, how come you weren't allowed to apply for the 1 year or 2 year spouse visa? Why the 90 days?
Okay, well I'm all over, but there's
So you may be
There's two different types of family visa. Okay, there's a Q1, which converts to a residence permit, which is then like a 1 year or a 2 year, or I think in Hangzhou you can get 3 years, or even in Shanghai you can get 5 years. But I think the Q1 you have to apply out of the country, and
So I applied in Hangzhou.
oh, did you?
1 year.
I'm-
I could apply for a 2 year one too.
No, but after you get the Q1 visa, then you need to convert it to the residence permit.
I don't think so.
Really?
Just
I want to see your
like
passport.
that.
I think the visa itself is a residence permit.
Yeah.
Just for work visa, you just have the visa, and at the same time it's a residence permit.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, it is one and the same
Yeah, one
thing.
paper,
It's
yeah.
the same thing, yeah. The residence permit is the visa. Yeah.
Yeah, from what I said, the Q1, you have to get a Q1 to convert to a residence permit. But I wasn't able to do that.
So I hadn't heard of this 90-day thing. A question with the 90-day, if you leave the country, then how do you get back in with no visa?
No, well, it's the same visa. The visa is valid for 1 year, but only 90 days in the country.
Oh, okay, you have to, okay, I see. Okay.
And actually, when I was researching it online, I saw that this visa you can get like 120 days, or you can get 180 days. In fact, that's what many websites said was normal. They're like, it's normal to get a 180 days in the country, or 120 days. I got 90 days. which sucks.
What was the difference?
You go.
What
Thank
was
you.
the reason? What was the reason that you didn't go for Q1 visas? Was like you didn't have the documents, or?
I think I didn't do my research very well. Maybe next time I will.
I see.
But like, kind of, maybe I'll skip ahead. Like on that note, okay. So I've got this Q1 visa. Let's say I maybe I can get it here. I fly to Hong Kong and I apply for this family visa, which is actually what some dads were recommending that I do, is get the Q1 and get a residence permit. But like I'm not a resident of Hangzhou, officially. Wait, I have the notes. Yeah, okay, so they recommended that I get the Q1 and then apply for a residence permit, which I will definitely be trying to do. But like, as it stands now, I would have to be applying for this residence permit in Hunan province, where my wife is a resident, because it counts on where your wife is a resident, and she's not
living. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
She's
go ahead.
living in Hangzhou with you.
Yeah, she lives here.
And she earns her money here.
She doesn't work.
She doesn't work.
Yeah.
Oh. Because as far as I know, I might be wrong, but as far as I know, if she's registered as a resident in Hangzhou, and she has proof that she has paid taxes for at least 6 months in Hangzhou, then you can you don't need to go all the way to Hunan.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. Yeah, but she needs to have started paying taxes in Hangzhou for 6 months and become a tax resident of Hangzhou.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have a job, she doesn't have a business, I'm not sure if she can voluntarily pay taxes, but even while I was preparing, just 2 hours ago, I was discussing this with other dads, what do we do, what do I do, what do you guys do? And they're not sure if my wife can qualify as a resident of Hangzhou, because what is she bringing to Hangzhou? And you know that in China many people struggle with the hukou system, and moving around and becoming a resident, and kind of in a way I'm also now at the mercy of the hukou system, and where my wife is able to become a resident, because when I'm applying for my 1-year residence permit, or if I was on the Q1 instead of the 90-day, I have to do it where my wife is a tax resident. And it's partially our problem, because a lot of this stuff is my bad planning or my not doing enough research before. But there's a lot of difficulties as well. I definitely don't want to move to the middle of nowhere in Hunan province as my residence and have to live there and have to apply for my residence permit there. I'm not even sure, if the angry guy at the Juzhou immigration office even does residence permits, but maybe I'll find out. And anyway, I like Hangzhou. I want to stay in Hangzhou and work remotely or look for a job, or Hangzhou is my home and I want to be able to stay here, but I'm somewhat at the mercy of my wife's hukou. Although maybe I can start paying taxes voluntarily for 6 months. But okay, as a counterpoint, okay, let's say right now, my wife, I'm like, hey honey, you got to start paying taxes so that I can get this residence permit in Hangzhou. But at the same time, I'm looking for a job. I might find a job in Shanghai, I might find a job in Beijing, or we might have to move. I might not even need the spousal visa. It's quite frustrating.
If I might add one thing, I'm sorry.
Please do.
I've always seen this spousal visa as a last resort visa, because what it is actually, it is when I don't have work, I don't have any other way of getting a visa or getting a residence permit to stay in China. So then I have to rely on the fact that I'm married with a Chinese person so I can stay in China. that's how I see. This is my own view, you know, about the spousal visa. If you have a job here, or if you, I don't know, if you're doing something else, if you have a business or something, obviously you can get your visa from by using those means, you know, by that way. So if you don't have any other way, then, well, at least I'm married with a Chinese person, so I can use that to get a visa, you know. That's what I'm saying. I never saw the spousal visa as something that you have to, it has to necessarily give you some, I think it's I see it as a last resort type of visa.
Well,
Yeah.
like
It's not that
that's-
useful, really. It's not that
Really,
useful.
exactly, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like the opposite of useful. Like
That's because that's what it's meant to be, you know. It's just a last resort thing, you know. You can't get a visa, like a work visa, you can't get like a whatever other type of visa, so I have to rely on the fact that I'm married with a Chinese person so I can stay with them, you know.
right, but like you're very judgmental. You're like you have to rely on the fact that you're married to a Chinese, the lowest form of visa. In my opinion, like should be celebrating. Like, oh, we've got a new husband in the family. Like, why is the spousal visa, the literally married to Chinese people, is seen as like the lowest garbage visa that you would
It's
only
not
want
the
to
lowest
get?
garbage visa. What I mean is that, no, obviously not. It's what I mean is that you, if you stay in China, you don't stay in China to cling on to someone, right? You stay in China to bring something to China, right? Why should, I don't know, your family or China celebrate your presence here just because you are married with a Chinese person? You have to bring something.
Well,
That's the attitude, that's the concept, you know. So if you bring something, then you probably have a business or you probably have a job. You will not have a problem getting any other type of visa. But if you don't do anything, if you don't produce anything, if you don't bring anything, then you either have your own money or you have to rely on your Chinese spouse. That's pretty much it. If you have your own money, then you don't need to work. Then you just get your spousal visa, right?
yeah, well, I actually have a whole page here. Why not just get a work visa? Because I definitely
Yeah, why not?
anticipated a part of this discussion. And, you know, I was talking about this issue with fellow dads, and some of them said the same thing as you, like, get a work visa.
If you want to work, get the work visa, yeah.
I would say besides, like, the counterpoint, like, if you're working remotely, like he said.
Actually, there's a counterpoint. There's Plan B that one of my friends took. He's not married, but he created a company. That company is totally defunct, does nothing. He even has some virtual fake office address from some service that provides fake office addresses. And he's living on this work visa for 9 years in China so far.
But
Yeah,
is it legal?
No.
definitely not legal.
Of course not.
Totally not
That's
legal,
what I'm saying.
but that's why you need to be adventurous enough to brave the Chinese system
that's
to
very
bypass
adventurous.
it. Yeah,
That's very illegal. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to comment too much, but I think in a lot of ways the visa system kind of pushes foreigners into a situation where they are either forced to be illegal or maybe forced to leave. And I was just in Shanghai.
Why exactly, if I can ask? Why? I never saw it like that. I think it's very logical.
I don't want to like get too off the topic. Like this is like already. I feel like in China, a lot of people end up working illegally or staying illegally or kind of being illegal. A lot of foreign people.
But why? What's the reason?
In my friend's case, for example, he is working on a satellite company to another big company, and they give him contract work. Like he's working as a translator, so when they have work, they give him. When they don't have work, they don't give him any work.
Mm-hmm.
And according to that company, this kind of work is not enough to hire him full time, to have him as an employee, to give him the visa.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of has work, but it's not enough to get a visa.
Mm-hmm.
And he works in China. He still pays taxes of that work in China, but he still has to use those backhanded means to those backdoors to keep
Stay
his
here.
own visa. Yeah.
Also, not every company is authorized to employ foreigners.
Yes.
That's another problem.
No, that's not true actually.
It is actually. I was denied
It's so
one work.
true though.
I
would
would
say
pass
like
all the
every company
interviews
is,
until HR said we cannot
every
hire
company
foreigners.
can hire foreigners in China.
No, every company can hire foreigners, but first they need to go down to the PSB, then they need to do this application, then they need to do that application, then you need to wait.
Of course, but the thing is, if the work that you have is not enough so that it allows you to get a work visa, then why don't you just try to get some more work or another part-time job which you can put on your work permit, because you have to have one work permit that can include more jobs, more than one job, and eventually, you can be enough to get a work visa. I mean, that is the legal way. Why wouldn't you try to do that?
The issue is that as a foreigner, you can only have one single job.
No, that's not true.
When I was doing
No, you
contract,
can have multiple jobs on your work permit. That is
No.
I'm
absolutely not
giving it
true.
a
you are
rest.
given what I was told is that you get your company, your work permit is bound to your company. And when I was changing jobs, I had to go to the exit and entry bureau to cancel my existing work permit that was valid for 1
I
year,
know that.
so I could get another work permit on another company. So it's like,
But it's not like that, because you see, if your company agrees that you can take another part-time job, or if the work that you're doing for that company is not a full-time job, you are definitely allowed to have multiple jobs on your work permit. This is completely true.
okay, didn't know this.
And if your company agrees that you can have another job, except for the job that they give to you, you can totally put it on your work permit. As long as you have a written statement from your company that they allow you to have another part-time job. And in the case of your friend who is doing translations, I don't see any reason why his company won't allow that, because apparently it's not such a, it's not a full-time job. So why not, try to find another part-time job, put it on the same work permit, and I can get a residence permit from that.
Well, cannot tell that. I don't know his situation well enough, so.
It works, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll drop the topic here. Just I don't have enough data to talk about him further.
Well, I totally understand like what you're saying about the work visa. And the work visa, in some ways, it lets expats come, it lets them work. You can get like a 1 or a 2 year. But what I really want to talk about is like making the spousal visa a path to being able to work, and making being a spouse a path to like a green card or to citizenship or to permanent residency or to having China like at
I have a friend who right now, he's on a spousal visa. He was on a spousal visa. He applied directly from the spousal visa to the work permit because he wants to work and he wants to do it legally. And now he's applying for a green card because he has meets all the necessary conditions, which are not that demanding, to be honest. And now he's applying for a green card. I mean, that's not a problem, if you ask me. The way you present it, it looks like a problem, but actually, I don't see it
I think what you're saying
as being a problem.
is good, and like it's kind of a sign of hope, because China has started these years is to expand the green card program, like more and more, to expand the green card program. And actually, I do know one dad myself who is eagerly awaiting his chance to apply for a green card. And
It's not that hard.
okay, well I'll tell you. I was talking to him on WeChat. He tells me I call the entry-exit bureau every week to make sure the requirements have not changed. I'm waiting for April to apply. But I think the green cards are like kind of a sign that China is changing and that China is kind of more welcoming of foreign people as permanent residents. And I hope that one day, I can get a green card and be a permanent resident.
Yeah, the thing is, I'm sorry to just interrupt so many times. The thing is about the changes. That is true. That is happening. A lot of changes happen. That's because the law of the visas is not in a definitive form yet. So they had a project a few years ago that they started to try implement it. To just it's in a trial period, if you want. So now there are still a lot of changes, but a definitive form will come into shape probably in 2020, and afterwards it will not change for a very long time. So that's the situation. That's why it's changing a lot right now.
Yeah, I think like on the path to a spousal green card, which I would love, and a lot of my other parent friends would love, or spouses would love. But like you said, it's changing all the time. It's like different from province to province and city to city, even if it's supposed to be like a nationwide green card. But I have some of the requirements here. It's you need to be married for 5 years. You need to prove you were in China for 9 months of all those years. And you need to prove you were contributing to China, which my friend, he bought an apartment. I don't have that kind of money. I can't afford to buy an apartment. But I think while it's changing, it's just so up in the air. Nobody, even I was discussing this like 1 hour before, and even people who, like you, seem to understand the visas really well, they really didn't understand how being a husband and being a spouse can move into having a green card. And there's one horror story I wanted to share. It's my friend, and he's been married for 5 years, and he's already, to start applying for his green card, but he moved from one province to another province. And when he moved to the new province, they said, we don't have any records of you living here. It's all provincial. We've only been here for 1 year. You've not been here for 5 years. You're not eligible. You're not on the path to a green card. Even if he's been here the entire time. And I think for me, I've been here 13 years, but I don't know how I'd have to go to Guangzhou and dig up some records. I'd have to go to Wuhan and Shanghai and I think that the 5-year requirement, even if I've been married for 5 years and living for 5 years, I don't think I will be able to meet the standards of proof for that, as much as I'd like to. Yeah, and just on the work visa, a work visa is good. You can stay for however long, until you get fired, until you need to find a new job.
Then you get the spousal visa.
Right, you're on this work visa, and
because you still are married with a Chinese person, so even if you get fired, you have, Right, you get fired, okay? And then you're where I am, and you have to leave the country every 90 days while you're looking for work. Another job.
While you're looking for work, right? Yeah, and I think I've been looking for work recently, and I'm looking at these Chinese websites for Chinese companies, which maybe have never hired a foreigner before, and probably they never even thought to hire a foreigner. So if I go to this job interview, and I'm like, hey, 我中文说得还可以啊, hire me. I'm willing to work for Chinese salary, and I'm happy to work here. But they're going to immediately run into they're not allowed to hire a foreigner.
There's some barrier, I think, in the industry, right? Or some legal requirements they have to meet with.
I think it's from my experience at least, because I've seen a lot of cases like this. I think many times they just say this because they just don't want to hire you. It's just they
find
find
an
an
excuse.
excuse to
Well,
just
exactly,
refuse it.
right?
Because
There's
really,
this
for a
roadblock.
Chinese company, they don't need a special permit to hire foreigners. They don't. It's just probably mafan to
No,
to
from
help
my
you get a
understanding
work
is-
visa, or it's just too much trouble, and they just we are not allowed to do it, so we're sorry, it's not our fault. That's pretty much the idea.
But you should need a license, not a work visa, rather, but a 就业证. Yeah,
Yeah,
have you
from
heard
my
that? Yeah.
understanding is that
Even for a Hong Kong person working in a company here, still need that as well.
That's
就
the
业证,
problem.
yeah.
The 就业证
That's-
is the
that's
work
mafan,
permit,
yeah.
and they,
Work
it's
permit, yeah.
mafan for them,
Yeah,
the
exactly,
local foreigner,
yeah.
to apply for work permit.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
they
yeah,
just say,
yeah.
you know what, we are not allowed to have foreigners. It's not true. It's just that they don't want to get through all the trouble to help you apply for the work permit. That's the situation.
right, which stops me from finding a job in a huge
Well,
way.
that's
For
the
some of those
situation.
international companies, there should be quite a few multinationals here, so they would be the number one priority.
Well, I know there's of course there's a way, I can get a work permit. I can focus on only international companies who only hire foreigners. But China is my home. I want to be able to go to the company down the street and be like, "Hey, I'm willing to work for Chinese wages, and I'm ready, and I'll work 70 hours a week, and
Well,
I'm
If I might,
without running into a bunch of roadblocks."
a little advice, because again, I know someone who actually did this, and it's possible. When you go to an interview with this kind of a company, you just offer or you tell them you're going to handle your own application for the work permit, which might help. But then again, the application for the work permit is kind of, everybody knows it's kind of complicated. So it's still going to be tricky because the Chinese company will probably still not have the guarantee that you are going to get that work permit, even
And
though
do I
you
have to
handle
fly
it
back to
yourself.
Canada as well?
The only thing is that if you go like that, the company expects, and you probably also expect, that the company will handle your application for the work permit. And the company doesn't want that because, it's malfine, it's trouble. So probably if you just tell them from the very beginning that you are willing to handle that application for a work permit by yourself, probably that's gonna help. I'm just saying,
Well, in
Actually,
my
that's what
opinion,
happened to one of my friends. She joined a Chinese company and she just handled all the paperwork by herself. And it was not
And
an
it
issue.
worked, no?
Yeah, but again,
It's complicated, but it worked.
yeah, also it depends on your Chinese level. For her, she was at HSK 4, so she was already at the speaking level. So
Right.
if you are
That's
if you are below that,
important.
it's again kind of fun.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if you've been in China for a long time and you're planning to stay for a long time, you probably have to learn at least up to that HSK 4
Yeah.
level.
At least I remember the horror story of getting myself fired at HSK 2. I had to do that because my old company was too lazy to fill they just told me to do all the paperwork by myself. So that was fun.
Yeah.
because no Chinese people get to contribute, I feel bad. But I think in this situation, a lot of times people will end up working illegally instead. And I think that is a lot more common than helping the company, is I think people just will be working illegally.
So now I want to add a little bit more positive thing about all this Chinese system.
So, yeah.
There was a Chinese lady working in my previous company in our London office. And after her 1-year work visa expired, UK just told her to go back to China. They had to move her to Chinese office. There was no way the company could help her to keep the visa, even while she was still working in the company. Even while she was on a 5-year or longer contract, I don't remember, UK just pretty much kicked her out. I don't think that can happen in China.
Yeah, definitely compared to Australia or Canada or the UK or any Western nation, it's still much easier for us to come and work in China than for a Chinese. It's basically impossible, I think, to get approval. But like, okay, let me just compare to Canada now. My brother, he's like me, he married someone from a different country. He married a Hungarian woman, but unlike me, he brought her to Canada. So he brought his wife to Canada, and just like last week, she became a Canadian citizen. So now she's a full citizen of Canada. She can work, she can get the passport, she can do everything. I've been in China for 13 years. I'm still flying to Xiamen every 90 days and hearing lectures about how I should get a work visa. So compared to my brother,
you cannot compare. I mean, come on, you cannot be serious about that. What's the population of Canada needs people? China doesn't need more people. You know, Canada is very easily and openly giving up citizenships.
Come on, bringing in like a million new immigrants.
I'm sorry, but China actually needs babies.
Well, yeah, but
looking in 20 years into the future.
That's true, but it's not the same situation. It's not the same thing. You know,
obviously.
that's completely true.
But like on the other hand, Canada is so small and there's so few people, and China has so many people that a few more in China is.
They don't need any more immigrants. You know, they just need you if you can bring something productive, if you can raise the value of.
Well, let me talk about how it works in Canada.
They
Okay.
don't need you.
So when my brother sponsored his wife at that time to come to Canada, you sponsor them as a permanent resident. And it's not that easy. The application is like 6 to 10 months is to apply. But then you become a permanent resident of Canada after 6 to 8 months of an application. Then you can live in Canada without flying to Washington, D.C. every 90 days. You can work in Canada, and you're on your way to becoming a citizen of Canada after some more years. And a lot of requirements. It's not that easy, but I'm very jealous. And even while you're waiting for your permanent residency, you can apply for like an open work permit where you can just work while you're waiting at any job, not tied to your employer. You don't have to leave the country. Oh my god. Like, I love China, and there's no other country in the world where I would have been able to stay for 13 years on like 100 visas.
Canada, you know, considering what you just said, you probably should have, went to Canada.
Yeah, well.
Because it sounds much better than China, your view.
Go back to my home country, I know. I've heard that.
Just saying.
Like, China, their green card program is like he's saying, is they're finding high talent people. Like, I was reading a China Daily article about who is getting the Chinese green card. It's like the first 5
Elon
points.
Musk.
Okay, yeah, Elon Musk. Okay, Elon Musk got a green card right away. Investors, number 1. Number 2, high-level talent. Number 3, key industries. Number 4, I'll slow down. Great contribution to China. Number 5, spouse. And like way at the bottom, like.
But
and,
still in there, still, among the first 5.
And here's the examples from this article last year in China Daily. Here's the 5 people who they highlighted who got a green card. Number 1, Joan Hinton. She literally researched the atomic bomb, nuclear weapons, and then she lived in China for 50 years working on farm machinery. Then she got a green card. Number 2, Robert Myrtle. He's got a Nobel Prize in economics, and he's the father of the euro. Number 3, Kurt whatever. He's got a Nobel Prize in chemistry, and he's a professor at Shanghai Tech University. Number 4, Nobel Prize in chemistry. And number 5 is a CBA basketball player who was in the NBA, came to the CBA, won 3 titles in the CBA, and now he's teaching or coaching basketball. He got his green card. These are the 5 people. I'm like,
You're qualified. You're married.
I'm
It's in the
close.
top 5, requirements. You're qualified.
Yeah. Maybe one day. I said most of what I want to say. Yeah, okay, so let me just get to the end here, because I know you Chinese people are like, they're all debating visas, this is crap. I know for Chinese people, they're always telling me to go back to my home country. They're always asking me, no, where are you really from? Where's your home? China is my home, okay? I know I'll still tell Chinese people Canada's my home. But I've been in China for 13 years. I am a Lao Wai in Canada. It is not my home. China is my home. Even if I have to go to Taiwan every 90 days, it's worth it for me to stay in China. I love China. I love my wife. I love my kids. I love the economy and the fast pace of change. China is my home. And I would really like if there was some way that China could actually be my home, and not just on a work permit or temporary spousal visas, but, and they are working on it with the green card, but I want the spousal visa to be able to go into the green card and let me be a permanent resident in a predictable way, in a way that people were not all confused about it. Even now, even when I've been researching this for days and days and days and talking to many other dads, we're still all confused about how to ever get a green card or be a permanent resident. I want a path to a green card or permanent resident as a spouse, as a husband. Yes, I'm just married to a Chinese person. But in Canada, that's enough. In Canada, in Australia, in the UK, I'm sure 98% of countries on this earth, that is a path to becoming at least a permanent resident. Okay, I'm not going to get a Chinese passport and be a citizen. That's impossible, even more impossible. But like a permanent resident. And, China spends a lot of time trying to recruit high talents, trying to bring back the overseas Chinese, come back to China. But at the same time, they have this schizophrenic policy where they're pushing people like me away. I know a lot of parents who leave China when they have children, or a lot of spouses who leave China with their kid. Maybe my daughter will have a Nobel Prize in economics one day. Maybe she's worth retaining in China. And I think China should try harder to retain expats and families and parents. And I would really appreciate it. I love China. China's my home. Oh yeah, and I'm applying. I'm creating right now. I'm applying for a non-profit organization in Jiangsu province, and hopefully all over China, but starting in Jiangsu, to communicate with the local government and to reach out with our issues, and hopefully make some changes for expats, and make China even more our home. So thank you for coming to my speech here.